Hey, what is up, my tricksters? It's your friendly neighborhood Yu-Gi-Oh superhero. I know I look really tired, and I am. Before we get into it, you guys are probably wondering, hey, you said you were going to give us another video last week, and I meant to. But I was working on this video, the one that you're watching right now, and things were just not going well, unfortunately. Um, it started off as a Cyber Dragon deck profile, and then I ended up devolving into a Cyberdark Dragon deck profile. The Cyber Dragon one is what I really wanted to build because, like, negations are really powerful and all that stuff, but it just wasn't keeping up the way I wanted it to. And everyone wants to throw in things like Dragoon and DPE, and I can't afford those. So we went with a completely different route. Quick shout outs to Dark Arm Duelist. Uh, he had a video up about Cyber Dark Dragons, and I liked his build, so I took his build and tweaked it a little bit for like the cards that are actually in my collection. And I'm gonna show you that today. So we're gonna go over a Cyber Dragon deck, and I'm gonna talk about some different card choices I have that weren't in his build, but that's okay because, like, I had to tweak things for more of my play style, plus with what I had available. So that's gonna be a little bit different. That'll separate my my deck from his. If you guys want to support this channel, you know where the links are. They're in the descriptions. Your playmat, my Teespring. Please get yourself something cool. Support the channel. And the big reason why I haven't been here to come back to it is I didn't feel well. You're just itching for more content from me. Go to my Instagram. It's on the end card. If you go all the way to the end card, the last 20 seconds of every video, you will see the at. Go to my Instagram. I make Yu-Gi-Oh art, digital Yu-Gi-Oh art, and I've been making some really cool stuff. I have like a Dark Cavalry versus Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, as an artwork. So go check that out. Appreciate that. That's something I'm definitely gonna keep doing. And let's get into that replay footage, and then we'll go into the deck profile and talk about it. So. All right, there you have it, guys. That was the replay footage. I know not all of those decks were the most competitive. Honestly, there's like two of them that were actual competitive decks. The rest were kind of, casual players like myself who just wanted to play what they like. But the deck is actually really fun. I'm not exactly sold on the competitiveness of it yet, and I still think there are some. I think it could get there. I think it honestly could get there. I just think it's missing a few things. One of the big things that this deck really needs, I think, ultimately to get competitive, is to be able to just, because like the really cool thing that this deck can do is Chimera can ditch a spell, get you Power Bond, and then you get to use Power Bond, kind of like Overload Fusion here, and I really like that. But the problem is that the card's Cybernetic Horizon is a hard once per turn, and part of the cost for this spell is pitching from the extra deck. So we always send Cyber End, but if we could also send a Cyber Darkness Dragon, it would make things a lot easier. Because then I could just power bond into this. It's not impossible, but it takes a lot of effort to get this guy out there as powerfully as he possibly can. And thanks to the combo video from Dark Arm Duelist, I actually learned a new a combo that I didn't know. That I was like, oh, okay, because this guy, Darkness Dragon, actually is the negate for this deck. You know how Cyber Dragon Infinity is the negate for the typical Cyber Dragon deck. The Cyber Dark Dragon deck has its own. And this deck does really easily put these Cyber Dark monsters in the graveyard really easily. Although there are times where I have struggled getting past 4, which is really annoying, but it is what it is. That's why I'm playing a few extra cards that put stuff in the graveyard in here that maybe wouldn't be in there normally. But we'll go over that. Alright, so first of all, I think we're going to go ahead and just reorganize this just a little bit. Yeah, there we go. That makes sense. Okay, so first of all, our hand trap is Gamma. That's the main one we have. I've seen other builds play more hand traps, but this is the one that I went with because that's what I saw. Dark Arm going with, and this one actually can use Gamma, I think, to its fullest extent, because you have so many cards that you activate doing all these different searches and sends before you even summon a monster. So Gamma's really powerful, and if you do get to use your Gamma, because like say somebody drops an Ash Blossom on you trying to stop you before you get there, you get a free Omega, which is really powerful. It doesn't happen too often. A lot of like seasoned players will wait for you to summon something to drop their Ash, especially once they see what you're up against, which is kind of funny because like this deck isn't very widely played. You would think that people would make more mistakes, to be honest. Like I'd never come across this deck on NO Pro, like ever. I didn't even play a mirror match at all in any games. Alright, let's go in. Now we're getting into the Cyber Darks. You got your Chimera here. Basically, what this guy does is you pitch a spell or trap card, you go get Power Bond, and then Power Bond gets to kind of get used like Overload Fusion, where you can fuse from the field, the hand, and the graveyard, as opposed to just the field and hand. It basically lets you banish from the grave for the rest of the cost. That's really cool. The trick is, though, is that you have to activate the effect to search that Power Bond to get to use that. That's the only drawback there. I honestly wish it was just he had to be face up on the field for that to work, but it is what it is. The cool thing about Chimera is if Chimera goes to the grave, you get to send another. I like that. That's really cool. That helps fill up that graveyard so that you can potentially bring him back or play another Chimera. When I initially was practicing and learning the deck a little bit, I did think that this card needed 5 different ones. It doesn't. It just needs 5. And so it doesn't care what the 5 ones are. They can be repeats. That was something I learned later. You got one of each. Keel, Horn, and Edge. These guys don't really do anything other than just equip the dragon ones, which are Claw and Cannon. They don't mean anything, honestly. They're just there. They can be beat sticks to a point, but they're really just meh. They're just fuel for the big one. All right, then you got Cannon. That's the thing. It's like we actually need like upgraded versions of these guys. Honestly, we need like cards that can change their name to these guys or something, but are better effect wise. That's honestly that would help a whole lot. Anyway, then you got Cannon. Cannon is the monster searcher. It will search you for the others, but it will not search you for the claw. Just keep that in mind. Cannon can't search for claw, which is a really big like. Honestly, this deck actually could have been a very viable deck. I think if Cannon could also search for claw, but Konami I guess didn't want to give this deck consistency. I guess so they were like, okay, this is how we're gonna hinder you. So yeah. Um, then you got Cyberdark Claw. The big thing this guy does as well as equipped, basically, they both have effects. This one will send from a monster from the deck if the monster battles that it's equipped to. This one will send from the extra deck if it battles. Initially, I think that was Konami's like slow way of trying to help you like do the power bond play I was talking about, where you could potentially get this guy out. But it's too slow in the modern era. Honestly, we need a faster way to do that. So, yeah. Yeah, it means you have to play expensive things like the Dogmatica package, and I just don't have the money for that. All right, so now you got your Cyber Dragon stuff. You have to play these cards to a degree. The one Cyber Dragon. This is just so if you send Hertz, you get it back. Honestly, most of the time he's just discard fodder. That's really all he's in there for. You got your core. This is going to search pretty much all your searcher spells. Excuse me. And then you got Naster. Naster is a one of, but is actually really important because it gets you back your Chimera, which is going to let you get to your Power Mon. If you have to pitch the Chimera. Then you got Overload Fusions. This is kind of your backup play to the Power Bond, so you can make some of your other fusions. Power Bond is our bread and butter. This lets us get to our powerhouse fusion monsters. Then we got Cyber Emergency. This one will only search for the light machines, so core, and it's typically the spell that I find in most cases I'm pitching off for Chimera here. Horizon is actually is the one another bread and butter spell. Because basically what you're doing is you're sending one from hand, one of the Cyber Dragons or Cyber Darks from the hand, and pitching the opposite of whatever you're sending from the hand from the deck to the grave, and then you pitch one of your extra deck monsters, and then you get to search for a cyber monster. So basically, it's basically getting rid of those cards you can't really use. Right off the bat, you're getting rid of your keels, your edges, your chimeras. If you're wanting to like fill up that graveyard ASAP, that's what you're trying to do. And then of course your main pitch card is going to be Cyber End Dragon, because you need this card so you can get to Cyberdark End Dragon, which summoning condition is bloody ridiculous. I said what I said. This card should be easier to summon, but it's not. Anyway. Or Konami hasn't printed the cards that would make this card easier to summon yet, like a dragon that is fusion replacement. I don't know. As far as I know, there isn't one yet, but that would probably help. Then we got card destruction. Like I said, we are playing cards. That was one of the differences between mine and Dark Arm Duelist, was because his doesn't play card destruction. I just threw mine in there because it was another way to like throw empty card. Like for example, you have a lot of Garnets in this deck. You really do. Every one of all the original Cyberdark monsters, Keel, Edge, and Horn here and then you got Driver and the OG Cyber Dragon. These are all brick cards in this deck. So card destruction is to help mitigate those bricks, trade them in for cards that actually do something. Then you got Foolish Burial. This is again, you send Chimera or one of the other Cyber Darks or your Hertz or whatever, and there you go. Chalice. This is a negate. Honestly, it's just a negate, or it is a bait spell. You play it so they have to negate something. Cyber Eternal is actually really good because of Cyber Eternal. You get it off of core. Cyber Eternal actually sets it up for you to have a negate and a monster that's really hard to remove, which is kind of funny when you think about it, because basically We have to do combos to do what the Dragoon play is. Like it's basically what it comes down to is Cyber Darkness Dragon and Cyber End Dragon are like the inboard, and if you get these two guys out there, basically you got your negate and you've got your monster that's like, oh, I can't die. So it's just like basically these two guys are the combo ends up basically the equivalent of a Dragoon, except these guys usually have more attack points. Then you got Cyberdark Realm. Cyberdark Realm will search any of the Cyberdarks, as well as it lets you have one extra normal summon of a Cyberdark, which is actually really good and makes me want to like when my head isn't quite pounding as much. Maybe wants to experiment with this in the main Cyber Dragon strategy I play because like that extra normal summon is actually really good, and really helpful. I actually wish we had better link monsters, to be honest. So we could like better machine link monsters that were generic, maybe like nothing broken, just something that would like, oh yeah, I can't die or something, something simple like that would make it like, just I don't know. I'm thinking out loud here. I'm getting off track. Anyway, the point of this card actually, it also will let you equip monsters from your opponent's graveyard onto your Cyber Dark monsters, which doesn't really come up all that much unless you just want to like, you know, I had it come up in one game against like a Grand Maju player where I like took away his what is it the snake machine, the one that banishes 8 cards on the top of the deck. Who's the Gizmek one? Yeah, that one. Anyway, I took it from his graveyard before he could use it because he didn't read the card. So that was just kind of fun because basically I don't have to target anything. I just get to pick a card and equip to it. So either they have to respond to it right then and there. And then in Dark Arms, he plays 2 of this. I'm just playing the one, although it's a really decent trap card. I probably could get talked into putting 2 back, pushing it back up to 2 because this card actually is really good at basically being spot removal. You kind of use it in the same vein that you use Cybernetic Overflow in the normal Cyber Dragon strategy. Like literally, Cyberdark Invasion has a similar vibe, except you can only use one of its 2 effects and only once that turn. So you can only use one or the other in each turn. So basically, it can equip a card to a Cyberdark, and then that Cyberdark will get 1,000 boost, and then it can send equips to the graveyard to pop, which is really good. It's really powerful. It's also it doesn't target, so that's a really neat trick. It doesn't. I don't think that really comes up all that much, but that's just kind of fun. It doesn't target. Now we're getting into the extra deck, and the first one we got is Lambda. This is just to let us use our Psyframe monsters when we have monsters. So these guys aren't as dead in our hand. That's the idea there. Nightmare Phoenix, if we're not trapped into machines, which Horizon will do, and oftentimes you're going to have to use Horizon, it does. You are going to get trapped into machines often, so you won't go into Nightmare Phoenix often, but there will be it's spot removal if you're not trapped into machines. And then, of course, you got your Seeger. This card is very important. I finally picked up one of my own, finally. I know that my past Cyber Dragon decks didn't have one, because you guys know me. I typically try to play with what I have, or what I think I can afford. And now that I have a common Seeger now. The Seeger is actually really good. Makes for a big robot. I like that. And Seeger also counts as a Cyber Dragon, so that's just kind of a fun little bonus there. Omega, you already know the Omega play. I already mentioned that. You're using it to bounce cards away. Chimera take Rampage, blow up back row. In a pinch, you can make this guy, and he can attack multiple times, which is really good. So sometimes you can OTK with that in a pinch, even though this isn't your go-to. This is more of a backup play. But it is also, the really cool thing is it also can be a bit of a back row play in the way that you would play Nightmare Phoenix, blowing up back row. But that rarely comes up. Usually you're just using him to attack a lot. Same with Cyber Twin. All right, so then you got your Chimera Tech Fortress and your Mega Fleet. Both of these cards are just in the off chance you come across machine and or players who either play Link monsters or are silly enough to put stuff in the extra monster zone. It does happen sometimes, especially when they don't know what you're playing. So, but there are still Link decks that are necessary. that require, you know, so so you can make Mega Fleet here. Then of course you got your Cyberdark fusions here. We got Cyberdark Dragon. Rarely this I've never summoned it. Honestly, the only thing I've ever used it for was to pitch it off to the graveyard so I could use it as fodder for Cyber Darkness Dragon. This card is actually really powerful. I wish he didn't require so much, but I guess the idea. Well, I kind of get why he requires so much is because one, this monster can get really big really quickly. Um, that's one of the first things, and the other thing is like it's not a once per turn negate. It's as long as you have equips on it, this card can just keep sending to negate. So that's really powerful, and it doesn't just take negates from itself. It can take or equips from itself to negate. It can take any monster that's got equips on it, which is actually why the play that Dark Arm was talking about is actually really powerful because your opponent is already going to be intimidated by your Cyber Dark End Dragon, and then now on top of that, you can use the equip that Cyber Dark End provides and gets for free for swinging. Uh, to just keep negating, and that's really powerful. And then, of course, you can pitch its own negate in a pinch if you have to. All right, so I know that I don't see a lot of people playing this card. I think this card's actually really good as another backup play to the main play that you want to make, because everything is after this guy, but this guy actually does kind of, under certain circumstances, kind of comes out as like a weaker version of this. All right, so oftentimes you're always going to be sending Cyber End to the graveyard because, again, your goal is Cyber Dark End. But Cyber Eternity just says Cyber Dragon plus 2 robots. So that's really easy to pull off. It's just basically 3 monsters, and he comes out usually under Power Bond, so he'll come out being at 5,600 points, and then of course you'll have a fusion in the graveyard, and a lot of players forget that little clause that it's conditional. A lot of players forget that because they're not looking for it. It's like, oh well, he can't be targeted and he can't be destroyed. So you have this 5,600 attack monster that basically it's kaiju or bust. If you ain't got a kaiju, well, guess what? You're not getting rid of him unless you play, or obviously beaten over it. But that a lot of monsters, a lot of decks have trouble getting over a 5,600 attack, thing, and that's what this deck really brings to the table. Is it brings big robots, and basically everybody's like, oh shit, this thing is huge. Then you got Cyber End Dragon here. You need this to get to that ultimately. Like I said, what I really wish is there was an easier way to like either replace one of these guys so I could just do the power bond play and make him easy, but it is what it is. And then what Cyberdark End Dragon is basically, he is just basically a really big robot, and you summon him by either fusing Cyberdark End with Cyber Darkness Dragon, which is really impossible. Unless you have the necessary components to stick all the materials in the graveyard, and then, like I said, do the Chimera Power Bond play, and then you can get that round. But the more common way that you're going to get him out is you're going to hard make Cyber Darkness Dragon with that play, and then equip this card via the Darkness Dragon's effect, and then you contribute that Darkness Dragon to summon that. That counts as a regular summon, by the way, just in case you didn't know. That's a successful proper summon. So that way you can bring it back with stuff. Just FYI. And then once per turn, you get to keep it. You get to equip a card, any monster, to this thing, and then of course he gets to attack up to the number of equips, which tells me that if he doesn't have an equipped card, I think he can't swing. That's a bit of a weakness in there, but that's really not all that important. Because every turn, one time, you get to just keep doing it. So basically, this guy could eventually start swinging more than once, if the turn progresses to that point. Also, he is unaffected by the activated effects of opponent's cards. So I can still give him whatever I want. Like, for example, if I have the trap card out, he still gets the extra 1,000 attack points, and he can get bigger and stuff like that. Basically, if it's like a floodgate, the way that's what he can't be unaffected by. So like things like rivalry, for example, and all that kind of stuff, like gravity bind, etc. If you want an old school card example, yeah. This side deck is just stuff I threw together. I rarely ever used it You can put whatever you want in there. I just kind of threw some basic stuff in there. Some back row hate cards, some front row hate cards. The Gizmek here, or the not Gizmek, the Jizakiru here, the robot kaiju, because obviously you can still contact fuse with the Cyber Dragon side of the deck. This is actually really fun. I'm still tweaking with it, and I think that I have learned a few things that I might be able to apply to the standard Cyber Dragon deck, which is where I typically lean more towards. At least for now. I could get talked into playing more Cyberdark than Cyber Dragon later down the line if certain cards ever come out. Like if Konami makes like a dragon monster that's like King of the Swamp or the Hex Seals or any like one of those cards like, oh yeah, replace me for a name. They make like a dragon monster. That's like maybe then I could see myself uh, maybe more seriously playing this deck, because then it would be easier to make this guy. You could pitch off the Cyber End, and then have the monster replace the Cyber Darkness Dragon, and then you just Chimera, boom, big, and because big monster that is unaffected by most things is actually pretty powerful. And I enjoyed that. He doesn't stop you from doing anything. He's just big and staring at you, and you're not getting rid of him without a fist fight, and that's personally how I like to play Yu-Gi-Oh. I prefer it if it was just a boxing match, but you know, Konami has to support different play styles, so it is what it is there. Anyway, guys, if you like the deck profile, you know the drill. Like, subscribe. I'm sorry if I'm so tired in this video. I am not at 100% right now. I'm a little overwhelmed. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like I said, if you're new here, please consider subscribing. I'm trying to get to the 10,000 mark so I can have my subscriber count match my name. That's the anything after that. It's just icing on the cake. But that's the goal for me. So if you want to help me get to that, that would be greatly appreciated. Let me know if you play Cyber Dark Dragons. Do me a solid. Let me know some of the cards that you prefer to play in your sideboards. I'm really curious. I couldn't really think of the cards that were really best suited for the sideboard of this deck. This was just something fun to throw together anyway, because I was frustrated with playing regular Cyber Dragons trying to make that work. So, and I don't really like the trap build. I know that the trap build's very popular of Cyber Dragons, but that's not that. I don't want to do that. I want to make big fusion monsters and Smash and make Cyber Dragon Infinity. But that's a conversation for another day. But anyway, yeah, tell me some side cards you would play if you were going to play Cyber Darks as a deck at a tournament. Let me know what you would play in your sideboard if you made it this far. And anyway, guys, peace. I hope to see you later this week if I can muster the energy.